The combine's over, but the information, knowledge, rumors, thoughts still continue to trickle out. Today, a tremendous article from one Matthew Berry. You know him, you love him. Really the beat writer for fantasy football with access and using that access to give us some things. Let's start in the NFC East. I know Mr. Berry loves Washington, and he wanted to stress that people are really emphasizing the relationship between Cam Newton and Ron Rivera. Now, of course, this intersects with what will Washington do with the number 2 pick. Does think that Haskins will remain the starter if he had to bet on it. However, also a lot of people not exactly convinced. We talked about this in Sig Section recently. The Panthers saying, "Oh, Cam Newton's going to be our guy," or "We're excited to work with him, going forward with him." If Newton were to become available via trade or release, keep that in mind. Keeping in the division, a little warning about Miles Sanders still being mired in a running back by committee. Sanders was very good at the end of the year, although the team might have liked the mix they had better with Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard, an interesting free agent running back to watch, and the potential for Evan Ingram to get traded. Now, the 5th-year options don't come up until after the draft. This is going to be a big one to watch because Ingram hasn't been able to stay healthy. Matthew Berry cited that as the reason that Ingram could get traded. Rhett Ellison also, by the way, talking about retiring from a concussion. So Caden Smith, who the 49ers let slip through their fingers, had a really good end of the season. Remember, he caught an overtime game winner in week 16, won 2 touchdowns that week. Maybe Caden Smith, a name to think about in deep dynasty leagues. Also in the NFC East beat, Matthew Berry mentioned Dallas Goedert coming on, and maybe as we're looking at the Eagles to improve wide receiver, one of the answers there is a lot of 2 tight end sets and Goddard as a quasi wide receiver. Of course, we're going to talk about Tom Brady. Talk about the combine. We're going to talk about Tom Brady. Now, what Matthew Berry reports, which is similar to some of the other reports, everybody that he talked to seems to believe that Brady will not play for New England. And New England's still going to have one more attempt. I think Ben Valin reported there'll be one more attempt. And we'll see. Brady will listen. What was interesting, though, about Matthew Berry's report is that he listed Tampa Bay as his team as the favorite, although not an overwhelming favorite, just in order. Tampa Bay, Tennessee, and Vegas as the 3 teams that he would look at. And then, of course, later on in the article, he says Tennessee might let Ryan Tannehill test the market and tag Derrick Henry. So lots of things to think about here. Personal love of mine, speaking of love, Bryce Love. Also, this time of year is when we're looking for players that might take a leap between the last time we saw them and the next time we see them. Bryce Love, one of those players, missed his rookie year with an ACL. Remember, before that knee injury, he was an elite running back prospect, and those Washington running backs will share. Of course, Adrian Peterson brought back earlier this offseason. Love might be the 3rd piece. Keep in mind, that might mean that Chris Thompson is out there to go back and reunite with Jay Gruden, which cuts into Leonard Fournette's workload as a receiver. And of course, this all ties back around to Matthew Berry's article where he says, talking to the Jags, people from the Jags at the combine, they're going to pass. And they're going to pass. Also look for D. Westbrook to line up more on the outside. But that also could predicate bringing in a receiving back like one Chris Thompson. Also, Jordan Akins comes up. Remember, 3rd-round pick, speed, a vertical tight end. Darren Fells might not be back. He produced a lot of touchdowns. Maybe Akins could inherit that role. Let's also keep an eye, not from Matthew Berry's article, I'm bringing in 3rd-round pick from last year, Kahale Warring, water polo player, raw, great athlete. Let's watch his development over this offseason. Spent time on IR last year. Alan Lazard was brought up by Matthew, too. And the relationship between Lazard and Rodgers is very tight. Remember, Rodgers lobbied for Lazard to play. Lots of lamenting how terrible the receivers were after Devontae Adams. Maybe it's Alan Lazard that takes a big step forward. And there you have it. He had 20-plus things. I boiled it down. Check out the article. You're all following him, Matthew Berry, TMR. Indispensable content. As he pointed out, Darren Waller, one of our first clues, came from his version of that article last year. So we thank him for giving us a lot to talk about, to think about. As always, like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube channel. If you enjoy these videos, footballguys.com. There is never an off season in fantasy football.